It's essentially just another me. What happens when nobody can borrow money? The banks here in the U.S. don't have any money to lend. That's why they're out there so desperately asking for my money. So are corporate lenders of long-term debt about to get their loans called in, or at the very least, have them reset much higher, a la the mortgage market? Here to help us figure out if debt on the balance sheet does spell doom for corporate America and their shareholders is David Castillo from Furtherlane Capital. Welcome back to the show, sorta. You were here the other day, and we put you in the mix just because you look so much like me. But it turns out you're running businesses here that we need to talk about, man.
Yeah, actually, we had a lot of fun, and you know, we know who the best-looking guy is here.
Amen.
But I mean, I think the thing is that what we want to talk about is corporate America. But I think what we want to do is focus on what is corporate America, and specifically the financial institutions holding on their books that have not yet been marked to market. We've seen the write-downs, you know, close to $500 billion throughout the banks and broker-dealers, but we haven't gone further. And I think you read in the Wall Street Journal, the National Credit Union Association had their 4 biggest members become technically insolvent on where they're marking their positions.
Right, and so I guess when I start looking and thinking this stuff through, you know, I look at balance sheets every day. Anytime we have a company come on the show, I look at the balance sheet, and so many of them have, you know, $1 or $2 billion of debt, long-term debt on their balance sheet, and maybe tens of millions in cash. How are they going to, and are they going to be able to refund? A good example is actually Level 3 Communications. They're going to have to, they've got an $800 million note that's due in 2010. How are they going to get the money? They're not generating the capital themselves to pay it back.
Well, the problem is that there is no capital generation, because remember, every dollar that's eliminated from banks' capital is usually levered 15 or 20 times. So the availability of capital to the system, which plays to what you were speaking about earlier about having the deficit the way it is creating a real deficiency in the availability of credit in corporate America, which is bringing in outside dollars to purchase things, whether it's, you know, banks or financial institutions from the Middle East or from the Far East.
But the good news is, though, there is capital that's being funneled in. So, I mean, I as a business owner sometimes have to borrow money. Am I going to be able to go to American Express and tap a credit line? Or I guess that's where I'm getting at, is I'm looking at American Express hitting 52-week lows all the time. I'm starting to get worried about my own business's ability to tap capital at a reasonable price. Is that a major concern for shareholders across America? Do we need to be freaking out about anybody that's actually got way more debt than cash on their books?
Yeah, I mean, I think you've got to consider that as an important concern, only because the ability to get capital from a domestic source is going to become limited. And I think the problem right now is that we have to find a way in this country to get people to buy houses, to get people to buy mortgage-backed securities, which will put more capital back into the system and allow banks to lend again. All
right, fair enough. But you got to get the loans from the banks to buy the houses. But let's back up. Actually, there's an important distinction here. You know, in 2002, October 2002, I launched a tech-centric hedge fund. And one of the biggest hits I did was I'd go in and buy any tech stock that was trading below the actual checking account balance, the balance sheet, the enterprise value. At an enterprise value of 0 or less, right?
So you're a value investor.
But at the same time, the biggest winners were those guys that actually were levered up in 2002, including like American Tower, AMT. I thought it was a great short at $4 because they had too much debt. Debt didn't matter. Why does it matter in 2008? Am I right that this time it does matter?
Yeah, debt matters a lot because we have almost what's known as disintermediation going on, which is financial institutions have a book of business now where they borrow money, i.e. via deposits or in some sort of way, and then lend that money back out and clip the spread. Right now, the money that they're borrowing, they don't have the ability to lend back out anymore because what they've done is what they've held on their balance sheet, or what corporate America's held on their balance sheet, is now worth significantly less.
Are there going to be write-downs on people's long-term balance, on long-term debt? Do I know when I see long-term debt? Actually, let me have a different way. Let's go to the other side. When I see long-term investments, do I need to be concerned if a company says they got $10 billion in long-term investments that maybe it's actually worth $4 billion?
I mean, I think you really want to take a hard look, especially in any sort of fixed income or less liquid sort of instrument where there's an actively traded market. Right now, we don't have a market in the fixed income securities market away from the commoditized issues like governments. I mean, I've compared today's market to like being a bazaar in Seder City waiting for the next homicide bomber to go off. I mean, that's the way it's trading.
Listen, we might not debate who the best-looking guy in the house is. I'm going to let them debate who the best-looking girl in the house is. Guys, when we come back, yes, we're going to talk fat.